All right, let's talk about a secret language you've definitely seen but probably never really thought about: medical coding. We're going to crack that code today, and we'll do it by focusing on one specific part of the body, the genitourinary system. You'll see how just a few letters and numbers can tell a person's entire health story. Let's get into it. You know that feeling when you get a medical bill and you see this string of codes like N18.5 or I12.0? You probably just think, okay, that's for the insurance company. It just looks like gibberish. But what if I told you they're not random at all?
Because here's the thing, it is so much more than just billing. It's a universal language that doctors, researchers, and public health officials all over the world use. Every single code is like a word, and when you put them together, they tell the precise story of a patient's health.
So let's really dig into that idea. These aren't just data points on a spreadsheet. No, this is a language, and it's a language that's all about one thing: absolute precision. At its most basic level, medical coding is pretty much a translation service. It takes a doctor's complicated diagnosis, all that medical jargon, and turns it into a simple, universal code. That means a doctor in New York and a researcher in Berlin can be talking about the exact same condition, with no confusion.
To really see this language in action, we're going to focus on one chapter of the Medical Coding Bible, which is called ICD-10-CM. And that chapter covers the genitourinary system. So let's take a look at the blueprint.
Okay, so first up is the urinary system. You can see it right here. You've got the kidneys, which are basically the body's master filters. Then you have the ureters, those little tubes leading away from them, and of course the bladder, which is the holding tank. You wouldn't believe how many codes are dedicated to things that can go wrong in just this tiny but super important area. But this chapter of the codebook doesn't stop with the urinary system. It also covers both the male and female reproductive systems. So we're talking about documenting everything from issues with the prostate to conditions like endometriosis, all within this one big, interconnected section. All right, let's get specific. How can these codes tell a story that changes over time? Well, there's probably no better example than chronic kidney disease. It's a condition that gets progressively worse, and the codes, they have to progress right along with it. So what is chronic kidney disease, or CKD? Basically, it's when the kidneys just slowly, gradually lose their ability to do their job over months or even years. The key here is that it's not a single event, it's a process. And the coding system is just brilliantly designed to capture that whole journey. And here's where you can actually see the story unfolding. See, a patient doesn't just have kidney disease. They move through these very specific stages. Someone might start with the code N18.1, which is stage 1, but years later, their chart might show N18.4. for severe disease. Each code is like a new chapter, and it dictates totally different treatments and different levels of care. Okay, but let's be real. These stories are rarely that simple, right? Patients often have more than one thing going on at the same time. So what happens when someone with chronic kidney disease also has high blood pressure, hypertension? How does the language of coding deal with that relationship?
This right here is absolutely crucial. The coding guidelines have a kind of logic built right into them. The system automatically assumes that if a patient has both hypertension and kidney disease, the two are related. The doctor doesn't even have to write it down. The code itself presumes that one caused the other unless the doctor specifically says it didn't. This is a huge rule that completely changes how things get documented.
And this table shows you exactly how that works. You don't just use one code for the kidney. You use a combination. The code starts with I12 to show there's a link to hypertension. Then a second code is added to specify the stage of the kidney disease. And look at that bottom row. If the patient also has heart failure, you tack on a third code. You're literally building an incredibly specific sentence about that person's health.
So we've diagnosed the patient with our codes. But that's only half the story, right? The other half is, what are we going to do about it? So now we're moving from the diagnosis codes, the what's wrong, to the procedure codes, the what we did to fix it.
For someone with end-stage kidney disease, dialysis is a lifesaver. But there's not just one type of dialysis. You have peritoneal dialysis, which actually filters the blood inside the body, and then you have hemodialysis, which uses a big external machine. These are fundamentally different treatments, and you better believe they have completely different sets of codes for every single step of the process.
Let's take another problem, one a lot of us have heard of: kidney stones. The name sounds simple enough, but actually getting them out, well, that can be a whole different story. The coding system can't just say, removed a kidney stone. It has to describe exactly how it was done.
The level of detail here is it's amazing. So the diagnosis code tells us there's a kidney stone, and it stuck. But the procedure code, that answers how it was removed. If the doctor used shock waves to blast it into tiny pieces, that's called lithotripsy, and it gets its own special code. But if they had to go in and surgically create a tunnel into the kidney to pull it out, that's a totally different procedure with a totally different code. That precision is vital.
And that same incredible level of detail applies to the most complex surgeries you can possibly imagine. Take a procedure like breast reconstruction. That's not a single event. It's a journey that can take multiple operations. Coders have to document every single part. Transferring tissue from one part of the body gets one set of codes. Placing an implant gets another. Every step is another word in the procedural story, and that's true for any major operation you can think of.
So, we've gone deep into the weeds, and we've seen the incredible detail in these codes for both diagnoses and procedures. But why? Why does this extreme, almost obsessive level of precision matter so much? Let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture.
It matters because of this. 1. A single character can change literally everything. A code for moderate kidney disease could be N18.3. Change that 3 to a 4, N18.4, and now it means severe disease. That one tiny digit can change the treatment plan, it can affect insurance coverage, it can shift a patient's entire medical journey. In this language, every single character matters. And that's the ultimate so what here. This secret language leads to better care for patients, because that kind of clarity prevents mistakes. It makes sure billing is accurate and fair. And, maybe the most important thing of all, it powers medical research around the globe. By analyzing these codes from millions and millions of patients, researchers can spot trends, see which treatments actually work, and find the next big breakthrough.
So the next time you see one of those weird codes on a medical bill, don't just dismiss it as jargon. See it for what it really is. It's a word, in a sentence, in a chapter of a person's unique health story. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other complex, hidden languages are out there, quietly shaping our world, just waiting for us to decode them?